The most dangerous force in the world isn't greed. It isn't hatred. It's the absolute certainty that you're doing good. History isn't ruined by villains. It's ruined by heroes, by true believers, by people who were so convinced of their own righteousness that they stopped questioning the damage left in their wake. Consider the missionary holding a Bible in one hand and medicine in the other, the activist shouting slogans of liberation while silencing dissent, the parent smothering a child with love, all certain, all convinced, all leaving scars they'll never see. We tell ourselves intention is the measure of morality, that if our hearts are pure, the outcome doesn't matter. But this is the great lie of good intentions. They don't exist in a vacuum. They collide with complex systems, with fragile ecosystems of human dignity, with realities we're too blinded by our own virtue to see. The colonial administrator truly believed he was civilizing. The social engineer was certain she was optimizing. The philanthropist just knew he was helping. Their intentions were impeccable. Their consequences are catastrophic. This isn't about abandoning compassion. It's about confronting its dark twin, the arrogance of altruism, that smug certainty that we know what's best for others, that our solutions must be their salvation, that our map of the world is the territory itself. Every act of help makes assumptions. Every gift carries expectations. Every intervention imposes a worldview. And when we refuse to see this, we become the bull in the china shop of human lives. Convinced we're redecorating, the antidote isn't less caring. It's more humility. It's the courage to say I might be wrong. The wisdom to ask, what do you need? The strength to hear, not like this. True help begins when we stop seeing ourselves as saviors, when we trade certainty for curiosity, when we understand that sometimes the kindest act is getting out of the way. Because the road to hell isn't paved with bad intentions. It's paved with good ones, meticulously, thoughtfully, and with absolute conviction. This unwavering certainty, however noble it may feel, carries hidden dangers, not just in the outcomes it produces, but in the very way it shapes our minds. What if our desire to do good, as pure as it may seem, is also a double-edged sword? It turns out that our brains can become subtly, even dangerously, addicted to the feeling of being virtuous, a neurological reality that often blinds us to the harm we might unintentionally cause. Think about it. When we believe we're acting, rightly our brain releases dopamine, a powerful chemical linked to pleasure and reinforcement, the same stuff that makes habits stick. This isn't just a feeling, it's a neurological reality. This intoxication of virtue can be more insidious than outright malice because while malice might be recognized and challenged, our good intentions often go unquestioned. This neural wiring can lead us into what psychologists call the savior's trap. The inherent pleasure we derive from believing we're helping can overshadow our ability to objectively assess whether our help is truly wanted or even effective. And this sets the stage for dangerous blind spots. We naturally try to understand others, but our helping impulses often get tangled in our own experiences. We project what we would need or want onto others, rather than truly listening to and understanding their unique perspective. Research suggests that our own emotional needs can heavily influence how we choose to help, potentially drowning out the very voices we intend to amplify. Imagine a snowball rolling downhill, gathering momentum. Our initial good intentions can trigger a similar effect in our minds. We tend to seek out information that confirms we're on the right track. That's confirmation bias. This reinforces our chosen approach, leading to an increased commitment, even when faced with evidence of harm. We see this in many situations. A parent who doubles down on a strict method despite their child's distress, or a grand social project that continues despite negative consequences, fueled by the initial conviction. Every act of help, no matter how small, introduces a power dynamic. Yet those in the position of offering help are often remarkably unaware of how their assistance might be perceived by the recipient. Studies indicate that helpers frequently underestimate feelings of indebtedness or inadequacy their generosity can create. This is particularly true for those in more privileged positions, whose very advantage can blind them to the subtle ways their actions might cause unintended humiliation or dependency. History provides stark examples. Think about the era of colonialism, often framed by the colonizers as a mission to civilize and help other nations. Yet, these well-intentioned efforts often dismantled existing social structures and caused immense suffering, driven by the unwavering belief in the superiority of the colonizers' way of life. It wasn't necessarily a lack of initial good intentions in some cases, but a catastrophic certainty in their own righteousness. Closer to our own time, consider certain educational or social movements that, despite being rooted in a desire to improve lives, have ultimately caused significant harm due to a rigid adherence to a particular ideology and a failure to adapt or listen to feedback from those they intended to help. Our brains, it seems, can actually hinder our ability to see when our good intentions go awry. Research in neuroethics suggests that when we feel morally convinced of our actions, the brain regions responsible for self-monitoring and critical evaluation can become less active. In essence, feeling right can make us less likely to recognize when we're wrong. So how do we navigate this complex terrain? The answer isn't to become cynical or stop caring, but to cultivate a more conscious and humble form of compassion. Here are a few principles to consider. Before acting, take a moment to consider, what is the worst possible unintended consequence of this seemingly good deed? If you struggle to imagine any negative outcomes, you might not be thinking critically enough. Consciously examine the power dynamic inherent in your act of help. How might your assistance inadvertently create dependency, undermine existing local systems, or impose your values? Only proceed if you can genuinely mitigate these risks. Make your willingness to help contingent on receiving honest feedback from those you intend to assist. If they don't feel safe to criticize your approach without fear of losing that help, you're likely operating from a place of control, not genuine support. Ultimately, true progress in helping others comes not from the purity of our intentions alone, but from the courage to question those intentions and the humility to learn from the impact of our actions. It's about shifting from the mindset of a savior who has all the answers to that of a student who is constantly learning and adapting, honoring the complexity and agency of every individual. Yet even with this awareness, the ripple effects of our actions, no matter how small or well-intentioned, can still leave lasting scars. While we may focus on the immediate good we intend to create, what about the unseen costs? The subtle ways our interventions can disrupt lives, communities, and systems? In this section, we'll pull back the curtain on the hidden consequences we often ignore, revealing how even our smallest acts of help can have surprisingly profound and sometimes devastating impacts. Think about it on a personal level. That urge to jump in and fix someone's problem, to offer unsolicited advice. While driven by care, it can subtly chip away at their sense of agency. Every time we solve a child's problem for them, are we protecting them or inadvertently signaling a lack of trust in their abilities? This dynamic scales up. Consider well-intentioned aid that floods communities without understanding local economies. While providing immediate relief, it can decimate local businesses and create long-term dependency, stripping people of their ability to provide for themselves. As anthropologist Mary Douglas wisely noted, no one wants to be saved at the cost of their identity. Now, what happens when these well-intentioned impulses become embedded in larger systems? The consequences can multiply dramatically. Take the non-profit industrial complex, where the need to satisfy donors can sometimes overshadow the actual needs of the people being served. Or consider the algorithms on social media platforms designed to promote safety, but often amplifying harmful content while silencing marginalized voices, all in the pursuit of engagement and profit. As former Facebook data scientist Sophie Zhang pointed out, sometimes the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed to make helping profitable, even at a significant cost. Often, these systems fall victim to what we call the metric mirage. We focus on what's easily measurable, test scores, the number of meals served, while ignoring the less tangible but far more crucial aspects like dignity, agency, and the value of local knowledge. This obsession with metrics can also lead to the silencing of crucial voices. When solutions are imposed from the top down, whether in a community project or a global aid initiative, the perspectives and lived experiences of those most affected are often ignored or dismissed. As anthropologist James C. Scott highlighted, marginalized groups often resist in subtle ways, but their voices need to be heard and valued. These systems can also create a savior feedback loop, where the very institutions designed to help inadvertently perpetuate the problems they aim to solve. Organizations grow by maintaining the need for their services, and professionals become invested in the permanence of the issues they're paid to address. Consider the foster care system. While intended to protect vulnerable children, research reveals a disturbing reality. For every child truly protected from abuse, the system can traumatize many others through unnecessary separation. The story of Maria, a 14-year-old removed from her working single mother and moved through multiple placements, highlights how a system driven by the well-intentioned desire to protect can inflict profound and lasting harm. The truth is that the road paved with good intentions is often lined with unseen consequences. Recognizing these hidden costs requires us to move beyond the comfort of our virtuous intentions and confront the complex realities of the impact we have. But awareness alone isn't enough. The real work lies in transforming how we engage with others, shifting from simply doing good to creating meaningful, sustainable change. This journey demands more than good intentions. It calls for a profound reimagining of our role as helpers. The truth is that the road paved with good intentions is often lined with unseen consequences. Recognizing these hidden costs requires us to move beyond the comfort of our virtuous intentions and confront the complex realities of the impact we have. But awareness alone isn't enough. The real work lies in transforming how we engage with others, shifting from simply doing good to creating meaningful, sustainable change. This journey demands more than good intentions. It calls for a profound reimagining of our role as helpers. We've journeyed through the shadows of good intentions, uncovering the unseen harm they can inflict. But the path forward isn't paved with less caring, but with a profoundly different way of showing up. It requires a radical shift in perspective, moving from the ingrained role of the savior to the empowering stance of a co-creator. This transformation begins with embracing three core principles. Before any act of help, relentlessly ask, does this approach truly preserve the autonomy of those I aim to assist? Does it value their existing knowledge and lived experience? And crucially, will it leave them stronger and more self-reliant when I step away? Intensely examine the hidden power dynamics at play. Who truly defines the problem? Who is designing the solution? And most importantly, who ultimately benefits the most from this help? The uncomfortable truth is that if the answers consistently point back to you or your organization, you're likely perpetuating, not solving, the underlying issues. We must redefine how we measure success. True impact isn't about how much we do, but how quickly we become unnecessary. It's about how much credit goes to the individuals and communities themselves, and how often we are willing to say the most powerful words, "I was wrong." Paradoxically, one of the most effective ways to help is often by doing less direct intervention and instead focusing on amplifying the voices and empowering the solutions that already exist within communities. Consider the radical success of simply providing unconditional cash transfers. Studies across numerous countries have shown that when people are trusted to determine their own needs, they start businesses, improve their health and nutrition, and rarely waste funds as feared. As the founders of Give Directly have shown, often what people lack isn't competence but capital and control. Similarly, true progress emerges when we center the lived experiences of marginalized communities. From the sustainable practices of indigenous leaders to the impactful decisions made through participatory budgeting, empowering those closest to the challenges to lead the way yields far more effective and equitable outcomes. The future of truly effective change isn't about bigger budgets or grander gestures. It's about cultivating deeper listening, fostering genuine partnership, and embracing a profound humility. It's about recognizing that true power lies not in having all the answers, but in creating the space for others to discover their own. So, as you reflect on everything we've explored, ask yourself, what assumptions about helping am I ready to question today? And what small but significant step can I take to move from the role of savior to the more impactful and ethical stance of a true ally? The journey toward genuine impact begins not with our good intentions, but with our willingness to learn and to truly stand alongside others. Yet this shift requires more than reflection. It demands action rooted in humility and self-awareness. We've arrived at the heart of the matter. The answer to why good intentions so often falter lies not in the desire to help itself, but in the unseen currents of certainty and power that accompany it. Recognizing this is crucial, but the true transformation lies in practice, in embodying a profoundly different way of engaging with the world. The ultimate truth is this: good intentions on their own are simply not enough. Without a deep and unwavering commitment to humility and self-awareness, they can become instruments of unintended harm, reinforcing the very cycles we hope to break. We must cultivate the courage to question ourselves relentlessly, interrogating the motivations and biases that underpin our urge to help. This requires us to engage in what we might call thinking slow, a deliberate pause to override our instinctive need to fix, and instead ask the hard questions: am I truly serving a genuine need or my ego? Have I truly listened, or am I projecting my solutions? What power dynamics am I unconsciously perpetuating? The path toward genuine impact lies in embodying specific practices. When the impulse to intervene arises, stop, breathe. Ask yourself, is this request truly coming from them or from my own need to be needed? And what existing solutions might I inadvertently displace? Neuroscience reminds us that even a brief pause can disrupt the dopamine-driven helper's high that can cloud our judgment. Before offering help, actively practice asking for help from those you would typically assist. Notice any discomfort that arises. This often reveals hidden power imbalances. Let this discomfort guide you toward building more reciprocal and equitable relationships. Remember, the healthiest communities are those built on mutual exchange. For every intervention, consciously name at least one way it could potentially fail. Identify who might be harmed by your actions, and most importantly, create a clear and public way for those you intend to help to offer honest critique without fear. The antidote to the pitfalls of good intentions is solidarity, not saviorship. It's about standing alongside others as equals, recognizing their inherent wisdom and agency. Often, the most powerful act of help is to step back, amplify marginalized voices, and trust the expertise that already exists within communities. Consider the profound impact of simply providing direct, unconditional support and empowering individuals to define their own needs and solutions, or the transformative power of participatory decision-making, where communities are given genuine agency in shaping their futures. The true impact often looks like doing less ourselves and creating more space for others to thrive. Ultimately, the true measure of our impact isn't how much we do, but how quickly we become unnecessary. Our goal should be to empower self-reliance, to strengthen existing systems, and to work ourselves out of the equation. So, as you leave this exploration, take a moment to look inward. What ingrained assumptions about helping are you ready to release? How can you consciously shift from the role of problem solver to the stance of a true ally? The most profound realization is that our liberation is deeply intertwined with the liberation of others. The journey toward genuine impact begins not with grand gestures, but with the quiet courage to question ourselves and to listen with profound humility. Tomorrow, when the urge to help arises, remember this: pause, listen deeply, and ask yourself, am I truly empowering, or am I inadvertently casting a shadow? The most powerful change begins with the quiet revolution within ourselves.